Yeah, okay, very good. So we were in the middle of the kitzur. It's a pretty long kitzur. We'll start on the third line on the kitzur Lamailo. That there is such a thing as oir normally is not to expect something, but only to be megala the etzem. But then there is a ha'ora from oir that has as its design to affect something. And then it comes with slapshus and tfiso, which means it is engaged in this creation. Ulamailo, this is only emotionally from nefesh. Ulamailo, and above, who it is, the ho'e pnimi, that oir pnimi. Okay, we already know that there are two principal oirs, oir makif and oir pnimi. Oir makif means oir that encompasses. Pnimi is the oir that is internalized. And we had numerous occasions to discuss it in all kinds of different mashonim. Oir pnimi is also called oir, as we discussed, even though oir by definition is something which is makif. But there is an aspect of oir where it has a distinct effect. That becomes oir pnimi. Again, we had all kinds of mashonim for this, but just as we go, maybe we'll have to be repeat to something. Because that its aim and its design is lifoil to be effective. Thus it emanates b'bchinas mitzius oir. It emanates not as AYIN, but as a mitzius oir, as an actual identified presence. That's called oir. Okay, and we'll skip after the parenthesis, the next line. And therefore, its effect is in a slapshus utfisa manner, that it's engaged and it's actually grasped by this action. This is oir pnimi. Oir pnimi, whose function is to be internalized. As we said many times, the one point that I want to mention very briefly, that a seichel, which is also oir seichel, but when seichel is being transmitted to a talmid, being explained, even though you want to impress upon the talmid that there is more to this which is being said, that there is a higher source and there is significance to this way beyond what is being said. Nonetheless, you do want him to understand what you're saying. The precise statements of the seichel. This is called pnimi. And this oy pnimi, in order for it to have effect, it has to be slapshus. You cannot explain a seichel without being engaged in the seichel that you're explaining, and without being engaged the person to whom you're explaining to. If a person sits and learns to himself and talks to himself and explains the seichel as it flows through his own mind, somebody sits by himself and listens in, he's not going to get it. He's not going to be affected by it. This is exactly a mashal that is given for this mitzvah. Okay, at the end of that line, avobot oir. Oir means if the effect is not in shefa manner, but if the effect is effect of oir, illumination, in yonoi, its definition is hu bechinas gile hu etzem. Its definition is that it tells you that there is an etzem there. This telling you that there's an etzem there is of paramount importance. This etzem gives you the sense of reality that whatever happens, there's significance to it. And the oil is the gilui, is the identification of the etzem. V'yesh boy, and in this oil there are two madrigas, etzem v'yispashtus. The essence of the oil, the etzem, and the hispashtus. Etzem means the principle, what the soil is about, and hispashtus is how that affects its surrounding. Sheha hispashtus hi lifoil, where the hispashtus is aimed and designed lifoil to affect. I have to bring some impact in this inyan.
Just to clarify, or mispashet, ha'ara, and or pnimi are all synonymous?
No. No. From the ha'ara can come a pnimi. But hispashtus is also, hispashtus is a piyula on an oyer manner. There are two types of piyulas: piyula in a pnimis manner, or in a oyer manner. The piyula of oyer in an oyer manner is clearly stating, I want you to pay attention to the etzem rather than to myself. V'yesh boy etzem v'yispashtus, and in this oil there is these two madrigas, etzem and yispashtus. Shahispashtus hi lifei, where the hispashtus part is lifei to be effective, or poel shaloi b'bchinas hispashtus, even though it has an effect, but it's poel by the way, so by its presence, not by his slapshus, not by engaging in making the piyula. V'hainu, which means in simple terms, b'bchinas makif. The piyula of the soil is b'bchinas makif. It's in a makif manner. and a hovering and on top and on a top performance from above. And that's why it is Maki, it surrounds and encompasses everything, everything that is contained therein, b'shava equally, because it is not imbuing itself internally to that which it affects. Overnight it came to me a very interesting means to thank you, to bring cognizance to this inyan. We spoke about it in the past. When we breathe, we take air, and we live from this air that goes into our lungs, and the oxygen is drawn out of the air, and this gives us physical life. This is sufficient for us to survive. The real experience of breathing air is not the air that we breathe into our nostrils. Rather, it is the abundance of air that surrounds us. And this abundance of air is not only that there's an abundance of air that we can take. There's a phenomenon in breathing. I'd like we should understand the phenomenon of breathing is that even though it seems that we are making an effort to draw the air into our nostrils, that is not what happens. The real breathing process is that the air mass has a tremendous pressure. The air mass, this pressure of the air presses itself into our nostrils. And thus the breathing, the life element, the real experience of breathing is that it comes automatic. It's pressed into us. It's not through our effort. This is why air has such an impression upon us. Oh, this is the source of life. It is not survival. It is life. So here is a demonstration of a physical phenomenon. That is in a constant, repetitive manner. Yet it has an effect of being a supreme effect, supreme quality. Without any effort, without any engagement. Just the reality of the air is what gives us this life. This has a tremendous effect on us. The sense of life in the physical arena is definitely due to the surrounding air rather than the air that we breathe in through our nostrils. All right. We went through this kitzur. Not so kitzurdik, but we went through it. Okay, we turn pages finally. Kuf Mem Vav. Ois Nun Ches. So the conclusion of the previous ois was that having spoken first about the ha'ora and the inyan from oir pnimi and so forth, then we come to the inyan from oir makif. Oir, that which is properly called oir, its effect is in a makif manner. And its effect is not by engaging it, but as we said many times, just the presence itself. This is where we pick up from here. Behold, all right, here we need to focus in. This is why it begins with Behine. As we spoke many times, Behine means pay attention, look. Ein hakavono shehu b'bchinas makif. When we say that the oir, that the effect of oir is in a makif manner, it is not intended to mean to say shehu b'bchinas makif, that the oir is in a b'china of makif only ve'in nimshach klal bo ilomes. And it is not at all come in and become part of the world. It says above, stays connected to the source, and its effect is only, so to speak, external from makif, but it's not nimshach internally into the elements. This is not the intent that we had when he said that it's makif.
What's the shehu? This or makif?
That the oir, that this effect of oil is b'chinas makif. This is half a sentence. We don't intend to say that it's makif and it's not nimshach b'klal ba'ilomis.
What's the it? What's the subject of?
The oil, the effect of oil makif. Oil is effective. It says effect with derech memela. We say derech makif. We do not mean to say that it's makif and it's not at all nimshach internally into the oils. This is why I said that here we need to bring our finer insights, capability of insight. We do not mean that it's makif and it's not nimshach in the oils at all. There is no internal aspect. This is not the kavan. The be'emes, for in truth, gam ho'er hazeh, also, this oil, which we call oil makiv, which we say that it has the effect, without engaging and making it and trying to be effective, but just by its presence, this oil too, harehonim shal bo'ilomes, that too is nimshach ba'ilomis, is brought into the world, betoichom ubitnimi yusom, internal, inside and internalized. Bitnimi yusom means that they appreciate it. They know what they have. It is not just hovering above, but it's also internalized and it is absorbed. B'pnimius means absorbed by the world. B'pnimius means absorbed, means that they actually appreciate it, they actually relate to it, they recognize it. Ad, all the way, gam b'chol hanivroyim shelamato, even to all the lower creatures, not only in world in general, but it permeates throughout all aspects, all levels of world, all the way touching to the creatures here below, the lowest creatures. Ve'adrabo. Adrabo means on the contrary. We're just now kind of discovering that there is an internalized aspect of this oir. In addition to be makif, there is an internal aspect. So you would think that this internalized aspect is only of a secondary nature. No, Adrab, on the contrary. Kol yikin mokin is habusus holoilmas. The principle of the whole source of his habus, of the coming into being of all the worlds, who mibchinas oir hamakif. The creation of the world is from the bechina of oir hamakif to the aspect of the oir hamakif, not from the oir pnimi. The oir pnimi is not that which affects the creation. It is from the oir hamakif. Having mentioned earlier when we first started the principle of the breathing process, that the breathing process, even though it's internalized, we draw the air internally into our nostrils, and then it ends up in our lungs, and it's disseminated into our blood and stream and so forth. But the experience of life, of breathing, is on a much higher level. He is referring to the air that we don't even take internally, but the air that surrounds it, that forces itself into our nostrils, that stays above, which is a proper mashal, proper illustration of this principle, that even though it's Or Makif, but this Or Makif also goes internally, and that is the principal source of the life in the world. Life in the world means life of Eliki, a godly life, a life that is true, a life that is not a worldly presence, but a divine presence. Worldly presence is not life. Like we said the other day, the scientific way of explaining sight, that there is an energy emanating from the sun, and this energy heats an object, and that reverberates, and that makes it visible and so forth. This is not sight. The world is so proud of this explanation, of this discovery, because it kind of encapsulates, so to speak, and brings such a phenomenal experience as sight into a box, but it's false. It's blind sight.
Usually we talk a lot about water and that you drink from a cup. Here it seems to be like you breathe from the lake. Water, we talk about the keli and we separate it. Breathing seems to be no separation, and the point is that
it's not true. There are both in breathing too. You breathe through your nostrils.
Yeah, but here we're stressing that it's Or Makif that is Shayach to Pnimi.
Please. This is what we're explaining, that the Oir Makif, and it gets internalized. But the ultimate, he said, the Iker his Havas, the Iker Choyach his Havas is from the Makif element, not from the Pnimi element. Iker his Havas is from that which gives it a sense of the higher reality.
Right, but the top line says Nimshach Ba'olamas. Don't think Eino Nimshach Klal Ba'olamas.
That's right.
So
don't think that the Or Makif is not Nimshach in Olamas, otherwise it doesn't get internalized. In other words, it's stay makif, but it doesn't have any effect. No, this is the real chayas of the animals.
So we're saying yes, it does get internalized,
But it gets internalized as oyer makif. It gets internalized, just like we said in the motion of the breathing. That's a useful motion. You're breathing in the air inside. It gets internalized. But the real effect of that breathing is not of the air that you take in, but the air from which it comes.
the real effect on the true human scale.
That's right.
To breathe underwater, I need a tank. So I can physically breathe underwater. But the real human breathing has to do with the expanse of air. Real human sight, the expanse of
light.
It's the expanse of the air which doesn't come in. Which
Yeah.
does not
That's
come,
right.
The same thing is with the sight. That the thing what hits the eye, that's not the experience. The experience is like the makif, like what's outside.
The ultimate yoim, not light but yoim. Not oil but yoim.
the point here is that it is indeed surrounding and remains separate, but yes, it is influential. It's a key element.
And influential to the extent, that's what the Rebbe said, influential to the extent that is the real source of its creation.
Yeah.
This is what gives it the presence. Please understand, let's take this a step further, we went so far. You take a seichel and you explain the seichel and you break it down into details. And you can reconstruct it point by point. As we said many times, after you reconstruct it point by point, you fully understand, you said, oh, I see. I don't see what me seeing. I just brought it down and broke it down into bits and pieces. The real understanding, real seichel is when you say, oh, I see. When you say, I see it from its inception. I see it how it's rooted in the truth. That's why I brought down in the seichel is on a means to relate to that. And it's an interesting thing, it's interesting that when you come to the point you say, oh, I see, your next statement is, oh, I always knew it. Oh, I know that. Of course you always knew it. Because this is something which is part of your chokhmah, part of your reality that you always see. But you're not recognizing it, you're not aware of it. Which is why it's possible for human beings to forget about the Creator, although the reality of the world itself is based completely on their awareness of the Creator.
Let's look at that for a second. They can forget. This is why they can forget the Creator. What is why they can? How can they forget? Even though the world's fully based on the Creator, how can they forget?
Because when they interpret what they see on their level of their understanding of it, they forget about the sight element. Like we said, sight is energy emanating from the sun.
By remaking it in their own terms, by
translating it on the worldly level. But that is not really what happens.
Yeah, but it does seem necessary or even very, very useful to translate it on the worldly level, but it's not sufficient. The ophthalmologist needs to have models about how the eye works. He needs to heal people.
That's right. The eye, not sight.
Yeah. Right. So
their triumph the triumph that has emanated from this is, oh, look, we have a camera. The human eye is exactly a camera.
And that's where they lose everything.
Completely.
But the ophthalmologists know better. They don't say that.
The ophthalmologist, that's real ophthalmologist. They know.
Right, a real scientist or doctor remains humble. He says, look what the Creator has made.
Exactly right. That's right. I want to start again from the third line because of the tremendous impact, clarity with which he says it. REBBE, to the contrary, not to say that this oil makif remains makif and doesn't get imbued internally. To the contrary, kol ikir moker izhavus. The whole principle, ikir means the core of this, also of the creation of the whole ha'olamus of all the worlds, who mibchinas oil makif is from the oil makif alam. The oil makif is what creates it. The oil makif gives the world a presence of reality. The oil makif gets imbued internally and gives the world a real presence. A creation. Let's go a little further. B'chein, and similarly, gam hagiluyim, they say that hishtalshuls. This would be beautiful if we can focus in and understand what the Rebbe is saying here. Gam hagiluyim, they say that hishtalshuls. Even and also those revelations, those things that surface to be recognized within the Seder Ishtalshelus, in the Seder Ishtalshelus process. Shorsham are rooted. The root is mibchinas ho'er makif. The root is from the bechina of ho'er makif. I'd like to put this is very important. I'd like to put this straight into our face. When we understand 2 times 2 equals to 4, cannot be anything more simple than that. Totally contained within worldly parameters. That understanding is totally dependent on recognizing that there is an oil makif, an overall true reality. It is not self-contained. It is dependent on the bigger reality.
Because it seems quite localized.
That's what I'm saying. V'hinei. Think to yourself and see what impresses you with that thought 2 times 2 equals to 4. Is it that singular line of thought or a bigger reality that it brings along? We can discuss it, but I'd rather that we bring out our own insight on the reality of our understanding. I understand it. Why do I understand? Oh, I always knew it. The reason I understand is because I have this broader recognition, this deeper, greater recognition. That's exactly the challenge. You understand it because you can prove it? No. You can prove it because you understand it. But the understanding is a much superior union than the proof. Much superior.
The understanding is superior than the proof. So 3 times 7, 3 times 7 is 21, or 3 times 9 is 27. You can verify it, but that's the values in the understanding, not the verification.
That's right. Understanding the significance of it is seeing it from a completely different, a higher reality. The reason that 3 times 7 is 21 is because there's a market behind it. It is not the 7 forcing itself to become 21. And okay, let me take a minute. And
Or just slightly differently, there is the understanding that is the foundation, but for the practitioner, like the child learns the times table, it seems like he almost has to leave off from the understanding and become literate with the table.
It is incumbent upon the teacher to speak to the child on a seichel level rather than a rabbatic level. It is incumbent on the teacher to develop the child's intellect rather than the repetitive quality. If he gives him the repetitive quality, he is destroying the intellect of the child. He's not a good teacher.
Wait, but that seems to say he needs to, the child needs to take his own, take that intellectual element, right, but then still become literate. He still needs to learn.
There's something else. You have to learn the facts, but you have to personally understand it. And the teacher, it's the teacher's responsibility to see to that child understand what he's talking about.
Okay, and just to make the question really sharp, it does look like the facts stand alone. That's why we said it does seem as if the facts land up standing alone.
No.
Even though ultimately they have a foundation, but the child needs to say, oh, 3 times 7 is 21 or not.
Will be able to prove it, can rely on it. But that's not the basis with which he understands it.
Okay.
Not at all. How do you go from here to 770? You go from here to 770, you walk down Cross Street, make a right turn, blah, 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 blah. This is how you get to 110. This is how you get there. But this is not your perception of the proximity of 770 to here.
Right. True. On the other hand, okay.
Very important.
On the other hand, there are. We use mathematics, but on the other hand, it does seem like there's a whole ocean of facts. Facts that are seemingly much more free floating. How do you spell in English the word receive? What's the capital of Mozambique? These are sort of facts that are seemingly unrooted, but we're saying no, everything ultimately must come back to a makif, must come back to...
The makif is what allows it, what creates it.
Yeah.
What gives it presence.
Right.
The capital of Mozambique requires that there should be a Mozambique first. Mozambique requires that there should be an area in the world where it should be.